but thanks for listening. Yeah. Everybody, welcome to We Say Things episode 164. Suns fan
164.
here with Cinderin. You have something against 164?
No.
Do you like 164 in particular?
Not in particular. I think I just have more energy than usual for the start of the podcast because I woke up earlier because I slept really terribly this night.
Oh.
I don't know how much total sleep I've got compounded, but I feel like I woke up like 20 times.
Did you have caffeine late at night?
I never really fell asleep. No. I don't know. It was really weird. This like never happens to me. But I consider me unstable.
Wow. Very interesting beginning of this podcast.
You're welcome.
I didn't thank you. Let's say thanks to our beautiful patrons from the In Bruges tier. We got Lab Dota.
Freezy, you took the first half.
I know. Freezy TM. Yataro does it again. Cinderin. A Scorpy. Obi-Wan cannot blow me anymore as my heart belongs to Cinderin. Mr. Stark, I don't feel too good about PGL's ad. What is the meaning of life? Answer me, please. Oscar Seeker. Make Drow great again. Roundy 3. The P stands for please, Valve. Please give marketing. You'll have done a good job when my grandma learns of Dota from the news. Disco Farm D. I am once again asking you to say my name. Simple Stooge, Silly Stooge, Salacious Stooge, Sadistic Stooge, Scathing Stooge, Sen. Milan Miami, the Mega Pope, and it's over Anakin. I have the high ground.
And also thank you to We Say Things That Do Not Mean Anything. So thanks for listening. TI New Zealand, Zan Xavier, Nate Thicko01, Hamscroats, Bacon, Shark TM, Freshly Seasoned Goat Balls, Janie, Dop, Nothing to See Here, _man. You can listen to my song Ouvre Mort by Florico on Spotify. Can we get Seb on the podcast? Parenthesis, not an ad. Ben Broomhead can't believe they didn't do Faceless Rex for the Arcana. Wooden Aftertaste Anonymous and Peter Orca Whales have been seen actively hunting moose in Canada. Niebling.
Moose? Oh. That sounds like
How do you
shallow
hunt
water.
Moose as a whale?
I don't know.
Do you just like jump out of the water with your head and then snap them and then go back in?
Cinder, did you know?
How big is an orca whale?
I mean, they're probably the smaller of the whales, I would assume. They're killer whales, right? The black and white ones. Those are definitely smaller than some of the big ones.
They are... There's a picture here that compares it to a human. It's like 3 times as long as a human. It's like 6 meters big.
Sundarin, did you know, when I was fascinated by this, and this is a tangent here. This was not on the schedule here, or not on the outline. You know, the whole evolution thing. When people... there's certain people that don't believe in evolution, which is, it's their right to be incorrect. That's fine. But when you bring up the fact that whales have legs, skeletal, like the skeleton of their legs that don't work anymore, isn't that just fucking incredible? That's why they're mammals. They started on land, they had legs, they used them, and they ended up evolving into water creatures. That is so unbelievable, isn't it? Except it's not.
Gills.
Yes. Maybe, they may have had gills. I don't know. I don't know how that works. But either way, it's incredible. It truly is. Okay, so anyway.
I think if we go far enough back, all of us evolved from...
Wait, whales don't have gills, do they? They have blowholes. They breathe air. They don't breathe... Yeah.
That's actually true, but that's besides the point. Because I can be wrong and it's fine.
Well, if we wait 1 million years, they probably will have gills, I would say.
Maybe.
That's definitely possible. So
will we. We're going to have to start living underwater because of reasons.
Sure. All right. We're going to start the show with some NBA news. It's a weird one. So remember when we had a conversation a long time ago about the owner of the Suns named Robert Sarver and how he's being investigated for sexual harassment, saying the N-word, doing a lot of bad things over the course of how many years.
How can you get investigated for saying the N-word? Either it's there on tape or it's not. Like,
well, it's not on tape, but it was like a full year of them like interviewing ex-employees, current employees, and all that jazz.
Oh, and all his ex-employees were like, "Remember your old boss? Did he regularly say the N-word?" And they all say yes.
I mean, kind of, yeah.
Great.
I mean,
all right. Well, that's good for him.
I'm not going to get into the stories of the stuff that he has done, but it's not good. Let's say
that sounds pretty terrible.
A lot of them were basically confirmed by this report. And what they did, this was the punishment that the league handed down to him. First of all, a $10 million fine, which he's a billionaire, or almost a billionaire, so it means nothing. But that is actually the most that they can fine him, apparently. Oh. And they're suspending him as an owner for a year, which I don't know the details of that. It just means he can't show up to the arena. He has to find like an interim version of himself or something like that. But all in all, it is extremely disappointing because he has been a really bad owner for 20 years now. Everybody's been wanting him gone forever. He is one of the reasons, like I told you about how the refs were rigging some of the games back in the day against the Suns, and it was specifically because they did not like our owner, Robert Sarver. So he's just.
Oh, and then it's okay to rig games.
No, I understand. Yeah, I knew you were going to do that, but obviously that's terrible and it should never happen. But also, you shouldn't be a complete douche nozzle like our owner.
Hopefully, there's a way of punishing that guy specifically instead of punishing the whole team and the integrity of the sport. That sounds like a better way of doing it than rigging games against the owner you don't like. But that's just me.
Yes, but that's refs and they're doing... Anyway, that's a whole nother story. So, yeah, people are very disappointed. There's a lot of outcry, and the league, like, normally they're pretty strict on this stuff, and they weren't. Like, the precedent they set is the LA Clippers owner from back in the day. His name was Donald Sterling. He got banned for life because he said the N-word on tape. They actually had the tape. That's maybe the biggest difference. And the other thing is his wife, I don't know, some weird thing where she could claim that he was insane and she could sell the team herself. So they can't actually, the league can't forcibly make you sell the team unless, I don't know, maybe there's some rule. But they weren't able to do that. So this is kind of the most
saying the N-word on tape versus having, what's that called? Like you've asked testimonies, right? You've asked a lot of people.
Yeah.
And they say, yes, he did. That is still not as impactful, or is it because of the combination? Like you said,
it's probably a combination, and the way that he used it, they were very emphatic about this. So the other guy used it because he's a racist. I mean, this is what they're saying, okay? He used it because he's a racist. And this guy, our owner, used it quoting other people. That apparently makes the big difference. Or at least that's like what his excuse was. But anyway, regardless of all of this, everybody's very disappointed. And there's some rumors, and maybe it's copium, that there's some, like, obviously the league can't just kick him out, so they're just doing this to affect the sponsors of the team and all that, so that he's forced out, like, within the ownership group, because there might be some wording in the contracts that if he breaches something, that they can kick him out. So they're hoping that. And then the other thing is it's falling kind of on the players to make a stand and AKA not show up so that he gets forcibly removed in some capacity, which that's a big if. But ironically, and sorry to make this really long, when Donald Sterling was banned for life and then the team was sold, the point guard on his team is our current point guard, Chris Paul. So, and he actually made a tweet today saying he's disappointed that the league didn't do more. So it's getting kind of spicy for the Suns.
That's the classic "I hate my boss" tweet.
Yes, pretty much.
Actually, that's pretty dope.
And if a minority owner was going to take over for the Suns, the one that has the most ownership apparently is an Iranian, which would be fucking awesome. That's just random, but it would be awesome. Personally, so,
I guess when he goes out and makes this tweet, he's protected for a year, right? Because the guy's not allowed to act in ownership.
See, that's what I don't even know. Like, if we need him, if we want to make trades, does he have any say? I have no clue. Actually, I have no idea what he's like. It might just be he's not physically allowed anywhere, like the arena.
What was his name again?
Robert Sarver.
Do you think he's gonna Do you think he's going to use his body as an exoskeleton and then develop a new body so he can attend the venue?
I don't think he has enough money for that. He is one of the cheapest
pretty
owner
rich.
in NBA. He's almost a billionaire. Basically, every other owner is a mega billionaire. So
if he grew gills, he could be in an aquarium in the VIP area.
what is the owner of it's the LA Clippers? What's his name again? Steve Ballmer, right? Yeah, Steve Ballmer, net worth. So let's say Robert Sarver is worth $900 million, just to compare this, okay? So Steve Ballmer, net worth, this is the LA Clippers, $81 billion. He's 81 times richer than Robert Sarver.
And 81 times less racist.
Yes, Steve Ballmer seems legit. So yeah, that's the current state of affairs. Sorry for going on for so long, but that is kind of major news in my world at least, so figured I'd bring it up.
Yep.
Okay.
And your world alone.
That's right. Next thing, Monkey Business Show. We were on the Monkey Business Show, Cinder and I, with JMR Luna and No Tail. We had a lot of fun. I'll make sure to put the link in the description of the video so you guys can check it out. How did you enjoy yourself, Cinderin?
Yeah, it was good. It's interesting. It's our first crossover, right? We've never been on another podcast. Yeah, for those of you who don't know it, this is a podcast, the Monkey Business Show. It's OG's official podcast that they run on YouTube, which to begin with was just JMR Luna, which is the CEO of the org, and No Tail talking about whatever. But over time, they've started bringing in guests, and they're very Dota focused. So if you're into like the hot Dota topics, that's another podcast you guys can listen to instead of just ours if you want more content. It was a good time. So check it out.
Check it out. And last thing before we get on to the Dota news of the week, Ability Arena. Cinder, we said the launch date would be the 21st. I'm going to put a graphic on the screen. Kaboom! The streamer launch tournament has been announced September 21st at 21 CEST, aka 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It will be cast by Jenkins and me, and the streamers taking part in this tournament for $1,000. And I believe it's not official yet, but it will be sponsored by Community Gaming. It'll be $1,000 plus some in-game rewards. The streamers are, in no particular order, Dendi, Admiral Bulldog, Sing Sing, Banana Slam Jamma, Cinderin,
Yo!
Monkeys Forever, Effie, and No Tail. So we got some very nice Dota streamer, Cinderin. We considered inviting Grubby, but I think for something like this, it would just be too overwhelming.
Yeah.
But he has been invited to the show, waiting for a response.
He's pretty bad at games, so yeah, I think he'd be overwhelmed. I understand.
The second streamer launch tournament, we're not going to launch again. The second streamer tournament, we will certainly invite him. But yeah, this.
What do you think about the nickname Monkeys Forever? Doesn't that imply that monkeys can't evolve into another creature?
Okay, so moving on.
What do you think about the abbreviation of your game mode being the same as Alcoholics Anonymous?
I was thinking Ancient Apparition, but yeah, that's true. I was thinking about, I wanted to call it AA, but then there's Ancient Apparition, and like you said, Alcoholics Anonymous.
How about call it ABAR?
I was thinking A2 would be the abbreviation.
A2.
A2? What do you think? Playing some A2?
You also just call it Abby.
Sure. So yeah, I'm not sure. It's not required for anybody to stream it, although we're asking everybody to stream it if they are able to. I know like Admiral Bulldog, for example, cannot.
I'll do it for $1,000.
All right, well, you're going to have to win then. I would not bet
that's
on
the same thing.
I would not bet on you to win, by the way. I think you will get bottom 3. What do you think based on this
Wow.
lineup? Yeah.
That's harsh.
And you've played more than any of them.
Have these guys played?
No.
Yo, chill.
So Dendi has played. He is going to get last place. I'm just going to say that now.
Holy shit. I like this. I feel like you're going to be very wrong, actually. I think the people who come in with the least experience will probably get the bottom half most.
All right,
I'm not going to say I'm going to win.
I'm actually going to
though.
make the guesses right now. So I think BSJ.
I hope I finish top half.
BSJ, I think, is going to win. He's an auto chess guy. He was very good at that game, and he's played our game like, I don't know, 6 or 7 times. I think he'll win. I think Bulldog, it's a toss-up. Bulldog, Sing Sing, and No Tail are all going to be up there as well. And then there's people like you, bottom 3 probably. Monkeys is maybe in the middle of the pack. Effie is grinding. She's never played a game like this before, but she's grinding now. So expect her to... You might get last, actually, now that I look at it.
You are actually a really good friend, because something
right.
that's important in friendship is honesty, and I can appreciate that. Something that's important in general is not being an idiot, though, and you're not doing too well on that account, but it's fine. We'll see.
I'll take that as a compliment somehow, but... I think you're safe, Cinder, and you'll get at least, at best, second to last, because Dendy will. Dendy, I think, has locked that in, and there's just no changing based on me watching him.
All right.
He did play 2 games, though. So.
Okay.
Either way, Jenkins and I, at the very least, will be streaming on our respective channels, and we'll be casting it. We have a cool spectator mode, so we can actually see everybody's shop. It's going to be fun.
Nice.
And we're going to start, it was supposed to be 5 games played with, point differentials or points given for 1 through 8. But first game, it will be a practice run because some of these people have never played. So I have 1 game of just showing you the ropes. It won't count for points. And then 4 games that count for points.
So 1 game of sandbagging and not showing the new players how to play, and then 4 actual games after.
That's right. So if you get last, the one time you're allowed to get last is that first game, Syndrin.
Yeah, I'm just going to be AFK for that, and then...
Yeah, so Syndrin has a... what was your strat of choice? You did win 1 game, I will say that. I think you won 1.
I was doing really well in another, and then the game crashed conveniently.
Yeah. Hopefully that's fixed. We'll see.
I've got multiple top 3 finishes. You're remembering my early times of not understanding the mechanics, so I saved gold and stuff.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
Like, now that I actually know how the game works, it's gonna be better, hopefully.
Yeah, Syndrin has
Don't tell the new people that there's no interest, by the way.
Yeah, Syndrin has this issue where when we cast together, he just doesn't listen, right? So I told him that there's no interest and you should spend all your gold every round, probably 5 to 6 times before it finally sunk in. Because I remember it was at the major. You're like, so because I was telling somebody else, and you were just listening, and you're just eavesdropping. And
is it
finally
possible you never told me, but you told other people and thought you told me?
No, I definitely told you. It's the first thing I mentioned because it's the most important.
Is it possible I wasn't listening?
Yes, that's definitely true.
Okay, that's probably
so yeah, September 21st. Hope to see you everybody there. Me and Jenkins will be casting, like I said, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. Really, really, really excited. Okay, regional qualifiers. Let's get on track, Cinderman. We got the North American region, which we cast. It was a weird... It ended up the way we thought it would be, but it was kind of a weird trajectory, if you want to call it that. So, Nouns, they beat Sonics 2-0 in the upper bracket finals, and everybody was shocked, including me. So Sonics go to the lower bracket, they 2-0 wild card, and then what did I say when we were casting that series? Sonics versus wild card. Were you listening?
I wasn't listening. So you probably said something along the lines of, if Sonics win this, they're going to 3-0 the finals. That sounds like something you would say.
Yeah, I think I said 3-1. That is what you said. I said 3-1, to be fair.
No, you said 3-0. But you need to listen to yourself when you're talking. You said 3-0.
So my theory with this lower bracket thing is, and again, this is just speculation, but I feel like Nouns, they have lost so many times to Sonics over the years. Of course, their names were different. For Zoomers, Quincy Crew, they have lost repeatedly. It's like their kryptonite. Like, they would beat EG, for God's sake, at times, but their kryptonite was Quincy Crew, aka Sonics. So I think before they came to this tournament, they prepared hardcore to beat Sonics. So when they met them, Sonics... They probably, I mean, I'm sure they prepared, but they didn't do it to the same degree. And they get 2-0'd and surprised and kind of brought back down to earth. And then you go to the lower bracket. You beat Wildcard as expected, even though that game 2, I think it was a fucking insane comeback. One of the biggest comebacks we've seen. Then they make it to the grand finals and they just crap all over them. Really weird qualifier though.
Yeah, we got the top 3 in order that we expected though. So at the end of the day, the result is the expected one. But I also think in the upper finals, Nouns versus Sonics, Nouns were running Faceless Void twice that Sonics just did not have good answers for in either game. And in the finals, they just banned it. So like they learned from that upper bracket series what their problem in specific against Nouns was, and then they just avoided getting in that position again. Aside from strategy, they also played, I think, Quinn said in the post-game interview, Quinn is amazing in interviews because he's very eloquent and he has a very big vocabulary. So it's super funny to just listen to the guy in general.
Mm-hmm.
But he said something, I'll be paraphrasing here, essentially that they played, what was his wording? It was something along the lines of like a big bunch of pussies or something like that. And then they figured that out, that they shouldn't do that. And then in the grand finals, they didn't do that.
I thought he closed the interview with "suck my balls, haters" or whatever it was.
Yeah, he did that as well. Yeah, that was a good closer. That was good.
That was
suck
not
my
sponsored.
Nuts, haters.
Yeah, he should have shouted out Manscaped. He's like, they're very nice and shaven and smooth to the touch.
My God, that would be good. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, basically, he was not letting. I mean, he was just letting it all out. He was like, we played like shit yesterday. We were way too timid. We didn't play like ourselves. And today we did. So they kind of just figured out after the upper finals what their problems were. And it showed. I would say, though, that second game against Wildcard was... I guess that's just what happens a lot of the time if you lose the lanes that badly, right? So the fact that they could claw a win out of that was pretty impressive, in all honesty.
So this is why I think that...
he called it a travesty and they played like cowards. There it is. Somebody in chat remembered the wording. Very nice. Thank you, Nico.
If Nouns had lost in the upper bracket finals, whether it was 2-0 or 2-1 to Sonics, the grand finals would have been closer. I will guarantee you. You learn so much more when you lose, and when you have an extra day to actually prepare for it.
Yeah.
So
that's
honestly,
how I approached Ability
them.
Arena. I started out my first 10 games just losing horribly by doing really dumb shit. I'm kind of like an AI in that sense. I kind of open AI'd it where I went in with no understanding because nobody told me what to do or any basics or any mechanics.
Of course.
So I kind of just trial and errored it. And then eventually I figured out that there was no interest. And that was a really big help for me.
Didn't notice that your gold just disappeared every round.
No, that's how AIs work. They don't know the concept that gold is even good. So you need to teach them that first.
All right, good. Let's move on to the other region that finished, the China qualifier. I didn't get to watch any. Did you?
No, it was not exactly the best. Or
All
actually...
right, sum it up for us then.
Yeah, so the TLDR, I guess a lot of people had the favorites RNG and Extreme Gaming. And RNG 3-0'd the finals against Extreme. So Extreme will be going to last chance qualifier along with Vici Gaming, who got third. Super competitive region. I think whoever meets these teams, especially Extreme Gaming, if they're as good on LAN as they are online, the teams in the lower chance qualifier are going to have a problem because our last chance qualifier. These guys are really good. And Vici Gaming is also no team to scoff at. They kind of got rolled in the lower finals, though, by Extreme. That was pretty one-sided, but Vici Gaming on LAN, you can definitely find a way. It is a very different roster than the one people would remember, though. I guess the primary people that will be recognizable here is probably, I guess, XM. Is this the same Yang? It is the same Yang. So XM and Yang, people will recognize. But the other three are much newer. I guess Erica as well, actually. Because that's Poyoyo on a new nickname. What is it with Chinese players and changing nicknames so frequently, by the way? I feel like they do that way more than any other region.
They do, and it's really confusing because we don't get to watch them as often, or at least not back in the days, especially.
Okay, so BAB is Fade, so people will recognize him too.
Yeah.
And... No, sorry, that was Frisk. Frisk is Fade.
Okay, great.
Oh, BAB is actually BAB. All right. Yeah. So that's good. That's one guy who is himself. That's wonderful. But yeah, these teams on LAN going to be scary. Congrats to RNG, of course, for the 3-0. I think getting a 3-0 in a Chinese final is pretty impressive no matter what, because these teams are I would argue in terms of like average performance, probably tighter than in the NA region.
Oh, of course. Yes.
But I mean, it's easy to say, right? But remember that Nouns did 2-0 Sonics, right? So you would say, oh, okay, they're pretty close. But on average, Sonics have not been, struggling with Nouns at all.
Oh,
So
you
that
mean
was
you're
an
talking
anomaly.
about the difference between 1 and 2, or the region in general?
The difference between, like, just in general, but both really, actually. So the region is way tighter for sure. But even among the top teams, I think the Chinese one is also closer in general.
That's definitely true.
All of it.
Yep, so that is China, and obviously the last 2 regions that are not finished are Western Europe and Southeast Asia, I believe. But I do want to cover one thing from Western Europe because it's kind of didn't have any expectations for Alliance, but my goodness, so let's see, how did this trajectory start? So in the upper bracket finals, they lose 2-0 to Entity, which is expected. Entity is one of those teams that is obviously one of the favorites to win. We should mention Nigma also lost to Goon Squad in the first round, which was very surprising.
And then they 2-1 Brame.
So close one there as well.
Yeah.
But Alliance goes to the lower bracket and they play Team Bald Reborn, which is Gork's team, and they lose 2-1. In that game 3, they were down at the very end, I was watching, by 60,000 gold.
That's a lot of gold.
Is absurd. And the fact that they lost to a team which maybe they've changed stuff since we last talked to Gork when he was on the podcast. You remember what he said? They don't practice.
I believe they don't scrim. I think they still don't do that.
Yeah. That is... Whew, that's a low.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a real low.
There's no way around it, right? It's just not good enough. But they obviously know that. Whether you're talking about like management or the players or whatever, I'm sure this has been quite the nightmare for Alliance management this season, or this year rather, because everything has just gone pretty much horribly wrong. And that really sucks when that happens. Something interesting, though, that I do want to point out, because people were kind of hopeful for Alliance, actually, because the series against Entity was pretty good. Like, Alliance were making that very close, even though it was a 2-0. That is not indicative of how that went. But I think part of the problems for their players is that, I don't know if it comes with, the curse of the name or the internal structure or whatever. You can only speculate about this, but I feel like they play the best when the stakes are lowest. You know what I mean? So we had this, their best series in the DPC was after they were knocked out, was against OG, where they had a very, very good game and almost took a game off OG, who ended up going, the whole way. Where they were just playing more loose because they were already out. They picked heroes that were active and they just started crushing the map. And against Entity, where they were still in the upper bracket, so it wasn't backs against the wall, they played with more confidence, they made more moves, and they did better. And then you get to the lower bracket, and all is on the line, and they kind of just freeze. And they lose to a team that has, guess what, nothing to lose. Because, Team Bald Reborn are just a stack that are not scrimming and just playing for, exposure and for the memes. And obviously, I don't know if they believe they can qualify. I think the chances of that for Team Bald Reborn are extremely slim. So I think they're using it to profile their players, and because they're streamers, many of them, right? They have a big following and fans love to watch them play. So I just think, I feel like whatever issue it is Alliance has, it runs deeper than, the players are just bad. Because I don't think their players are bad, but there's something about how they prepare for matches and how they handle stakes that is just not working out. Can I just throw
something? I have zero insight into what's going on with them. It feels like, and remember that content piece with Loda as the coach, and a lot of memes have been born from that.
Yeah,
10K a day and whatnot. It feels like, and maybe they have one, it doesn't seem like it, a life coach. They need somebody like a Blitz for Liquid, right? Somebody like that brings the team together, that doesn't let the stress really affect them as much as it maybe is right now. It feels like there's something major missing for sure. Because I agree, their roster is not bad. It really isn't. And And it probably makes matters even worse for them that Goon Squad was their original roster pretty much that they dropped. And they are in the upper bracket semis playing against Liquid right now.
Yep. I think, yeah, it's just weird. Like, I looked at the draft of Game 3, and I looked at how it was looking 5 to 10 minutes in, and I was like, all right, Alliance have got this. They're pretty decently ahead. It looks like a totally amazing PL game, and Nico was top net worth by quite a bit. I think Weehaw was second, and things look good. And I feel like you just, like, that one you drive home by playing as a team and playing tight and, just playing around each other. So I don't know how this broke down, but I'm just looking at the graph now as well. I didn't watch the whole game, but I remember watching a snapshot of it yesterday as on the side, and I was like, okay, Alliance are going to win 2-1. They messed up in the first game, but they recovered. I think they're up 4K minute 14 with a PL that is uncountered and strong team fight. So something must have gone terribly wrong. What I just read, so I'm not going to take this for like as the guaranteed truth, but what I read was that they weren't playing very well together. So like they were fighting a lot as 4, and Nico was farming a lot, and he was getting super farmed. And then when he showed up to fights, they had already lost their advantage. If that is the case, I don't know. But yeah, looking over this, that should definitely not have happened. So anyway, maybe it's a little bit unfair in a way that we give this much time to Alliance compared to other teams, but it is the big story, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, what do you do as the org? Like, what would be your advice? Let's take
Life
it from
coach.
there.
That would be my advice.
You keep the same 5 players.
I mean, you probably can't now. They probably don't believe in each other anymore.
Think, yeah, that's what I think. I think it's just like that ship has kind of sailed at this point, right?
Yeah.
But
I would pick up their old roster.
Who would you? Okay, so you'd just scrap the whole thing and just start over.
I mean, they've really
essentially that's what you do, right?
Like they've really invested a lot into Nico Baby. It has not worked out many times. So yeah, I think starting from scratch again is probably the play. But I don't think that's enough though, because again, like if you don't have the infrastructure in place to help a team succeed, then, which again, I'm just completely speculating here. It could just be complete bullshit and the players are just choking. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing that I also, again, don't want to speculate too much on, because I think they might have good internal structure and they might have all the things available, but if the players either, like, how do I explain this? It's almost like there's, in a way, this kind of underlying, you could say there's no pressure on them at all because Alliance has been failing, right? So you'd be like, okay, anything is an improvement. But the other way of looking at it is that you feel this inherent pressure that everybody thinks you're going to fail, which not everybody thrives on. Like, some people are amazing when they're underdogs, and others are like, like maybe mentally you just get drained by the fact that everyone is mocking your team, right? I think that is tough on some players, where it's like you show up to the games and you feel this inherent need to, okay, everyone's fucking making fun of us and we're still not winning, and then it just compounds, right? Like, that would be my concern. Not necessarily for all of these players, right? Because some of them are more experienced, and I think someone like Wee is kind of, just probably just laughs it off. Maybe internally he still struggles with it. I don't know. But my experience with the guy is that he would just be like, fuck it, let's just play our best and let's get it done. But that's... I think it's hard to separate yourself entirely from the fact that your org has just had a shit year, right? And everyone mocks your team. I think that is difficult. Which is amazing if you start doing well, because then you look incredible, right? But what if you don't? And that's kind of what's happened. So.
Yep. All right. I think enough of beating the dead horse here. Let's move on to the next topic. There has been a Battle Pass update.
Oh, yes.
I'll read part of it. So they kind of looked back, compared it to other years, and saw that the TLDR that they're missing, people aren't leveling as fast as they were hoping they would. So they added a weekly bonus feature. And they say we're adding a new weekly bonus feature that simply grants battle points whenever you complete a match. Winning a match earns 200 battle pass points, and losing a match grants 100, up to a cap of 2,000 per week. Turbo matches also earn battle points, but at half the normal rate. Also, starting with week 2, we've made changes to the rewards for weekly quests. For non-bonus weeks, instead of rewarding 500, 1,000, 1,500 battle points for 4, 9, 15 stars. Now awarding 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, which ends up being the same amount, if my math is correct. But the battle point starts at 2/8/15 stars.
Right.
Okay. So less.
So the goal of this is to be more inclusive to players that don't play a lot. So people that don't have the time or the desire to get 15 stars on every week will now get 2/3 of the reward at 8 stars instead of half of the reward at 9 stars. So it's way more forgiving in that sense. And if you do the quick math on the 200 battle points per win / 100 per loss, if you play on average, what would that be? 15 games a week, assuming you lose half, then you will have 2,000 battle pass points in 15 games. And that means every week you get 2 more levels, which should amount to 20 levels, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't there 10 weeks left? I think maybe something like maybe it's more actually. Something along those lines at least. So essentially everyone gets 20 levels if they play the game. That's pretty nice.
Net result of these changes is that these rewards will be accessible for more casual players, like you said. We also recommend that players prioritize completing the bonus weeks, as the bonus week battle chests are potentially worth a large amount of points. And in addition to that, they apologize to all Dota Plus customers that the Dota Plus item suggestions have not been working for the past week. We believe that it should be working now, and we're sorry for the delay. In compensation, we're going to grant every player who has played a match since the release of the Battle Pass with a free week of Dota Plus.
So that includes people that don't have Dota Plus, I think.
Yes. So, okay. What do we think of this? I mean, I think it... Obviously, this is good. Mm-hmm. I don't think it fixes people's perception of the Battle Pass at all, really. I mean, there's been a ton of complaints. So I don't think any of that changes. I will admit something, Synderen. I did break down. Get level 500 on my Battle Pass to get the Void Arcana. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing, okay? Okay. I'm trying to think. Well, how is this defensible? So, you know the Quap Arcana? Mm-hmm. The one that you really like? I never leveled my Battle Pass for that, and I kind of regret it. Even though I do not play that hero at all. It's just because it's so good. Mm-hmm. I do play Void. Not a ton, but enough that it would be nice to have an Arcana. So that is the.
So you didn't want to make the same mistake again.
I felt FOMO, you know, fear of missing out. I really did, and you know, I have nothing else to say. I feel like a complete hypocrite because I am. I am a hypocrite. I admit it.
The thing that surprises me rather, but the thing that I'm wondering is, were you so eager to get it now that you got the levels for it now instead of, seeing how far you would level by playing the game first? Or did you just want to have it now? Because
I wanted it now, and then obviously I saw that people were not able to progress their battle passes at all. This is why
if you want it now, then it's not fully FOMO though, right? Unless you're worried in your FOMO that you're not at a computer for the next 10 weeks one time. Which I don't think you would worry about.
I have a fear of missing out on playing with the Void Arcana now.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we can call that FOMO if you want. I feel like it's a little bit.
I understand that the things that I'm saying are not logical. I'm just telling you that
You understand that I don't understand things that aren't logical, right?
Yes, I understand that you don't understand.
That's important.
As long as you understand that I don't understand that you understand. So... yeah, I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed, but I did it, and I'm admitting it. I just wanted to let you know, Cinder.
You like the Arcana?
I think it's very good. Yeah.
Okay, then it doesn't feel as bad. It would feel bad if you bought it and then you're like, "Wow, this actually."
Right, that's true. It does feel bad because there's a lot of stuff I don't want. That's going to be coming soon. Of course, I'm not interested in those, but maybe it'll surprise me when it comes out. We'll see.
So I will say one thing here with this update that I think is kind of important when it comes to the way that they've implemented the Battle Pass this year. I think the bonus chest system for those bonus weeks, I think it wasn't communicated well enough or obvious enough for people. So I think the perception of how hard it was to level the Battle Pass was skewed even harder than reality. Like people thought it was going to be borderline impossible. They thought, all right, I can get 3 levels per week from doing the battle points, doing all the quests to 15 stars, right? But on the bonus weeks, the worst case scenario is 4 levels, and you can get up towards a lot, right? Because you can roll way higher. Obviously, the odds are staggered, so getting the really high reward is unlikely. But on average, if you do everything, I don't know how many levels you would get from the chests. But my point here isn't to defend Valve, it's to explain that I think it's really important when you implement stuff that you make it, especially with the battle pass based on experience, right? That if you have these systems in place, I think it's important that they're communicated to the audience so they don't feel snubbed. Because I think if you do look at it and you do the math on it, it's better.
You say there's a lack of communication?
Yes.
With Valve? What?
But then on top of that, regardless, clearly, since they're adding this bonus weekly feature of just getting points for winning or losing, they also identified that there's still too few levels. But so again, I think the perception was skewed to be worse than reality, but I think reality was still pretty bad. And now they've sorted that out to an extent with the weekly bonus, and they've communicated better that the chests are valuable. So the problem is how big a part of the audience is gonna understand that when they buy this battle pass, and how many people are gonna read the blog or listen to our podcast or read Reddit out of the player base. I don't know. But yeah, I guess all in all, what I'm trying to say is the original version was probably better for the player than people anticipated, but still, I would agree, not good enough. I don't know if it's good enough now with the new stuff, but it's better. And overall, I don't know, like, what's your perception? What do you think people are most unhappy about? Is it how much stuff is coming soon, or how hard the battle pass is to level? Because I think it was a bit of both, honestly.
Both, for sure.
And I think the leveling was not as hard as people thought. That's my point.
People are also upset that there's a second battle pass that does not contribute to anything.
Yeah.
I don't think... So here's the separation, though, to be clear. I don't think that is going to affect the bottom line in terms of how much people are spending. I don't think that's going to make
much.
I don't think that's going to make almost any difference, but people are still upset about and making it known, right? So that is important to make clear.
Yeah.
So... Yeah, was expecting something. I mean, this is like, they're not rolling back anything big, right? This is just like a little boost, it feels like, to make things a little bit smoother, but overall Battle Pass has been pretty poorly received.
Do you remember, like, ballpark how many levels you could get from playing last year?
I barely played last year.
Or last Battle Pass. Like, let's say you did all your cabin crawl, you did all the quests, and stuff like this.
I'm a weird... I just had a long conversation with Lyrical about this. I'm weird, apparently. I have never cared about playing the heroes in the cavern crawl.
Right.
At all.
I mean, I understand that. I don't think that's like
none of the years
weird.
have I ever been like, I want to play these heroes to get this thing done. I did not care.
The reason I'm asking is that, again, I want to try to be objective and fair about it, right? Because let's say people are complaining the battle pass is harder to level than ever. And then when you look at it and you break it down, there's the same amount of levels as last time or more. Then that's just objectively incorrect, right? Then you can throw that one out of the window and then you can discuss are the rewards good enough or whatever. But then at least, I think in the original version, so the cavern crawl gives the same as last year, I think, but I think it gives the same. Then you have the weekly chests, which I think that's 4 of the weeks. There's the bonus chests, which I think on average will be more than last year, for the comparable like feature of the battle pass. So I'm just thinking, like, if you do everything, how many theoretical levels you could get from completing quote unquote the battle pass here? Like, if you can level from say 1 to 150, like maybe that's the cap here, the mathematical cap on it. And then you could be like, is that good enough? Like, if you're literally playing the game so much, shouldn't you be able to get to better rewards or whatever? That's a separate discussion. But like, when I look at this, I'm sure we're going to get corrected about this in the comments if I'm wrong. I feel like completing the battle pass this year gives more levels than last year. Could be wrong, but it can't be far off. So
yeah, somebody's mentioning that they aren't. There's no wagering anymore. That is a big.
Okay. I don't know how much that gave you in the end, because that's also, you could call that a gamble, but like, let's say you're wagering perfectly for the sake of the argument, then maybe if with perfect wagering it gets better or whatever. But I feel like in terms of ballpark, it's probably similar. which means that, as far as leveling it up goes, then it's a matter of, do you also think it was too hard to level up last year? Which, most of the feedback they got was the same, right? So, and I understand, right? People want the cool shit for free because they want to be like, okay, I'm playing the game a lot. They're maybe looking to other games with half an eye, and they're like, okay, in their battle passes, if I play a lot, I can unlock almost everything. Why isn't that the case with Dota? And that's definitely a discussion that's worth having, right? If that's how it should be or not. If this is like too predatory or whatever. But but yeah, I just want to try to be fair. And yeah, I don't think the leveling is much worse than last year, especially now. Maybe it was worse without the 2K level or 2 levels you can get per week now.
All right, I'm sure somebody has done the math.
Yeah.
But...
Sorry, okay. I dragged that out.
Yes, you did.
Me.
Let's move on to another hot topic. There's some hot topics that we won't discuss until things are either confirmed or officially denied. We don't want to talk about rumors during this time, but for the things that we can talk about, the TI qualifiers. Let's see. It's the regional qualifiers from PGL, the last chance qualifier, and the group stage of TI are sponsored by GGBet. First time that, I was going to say any sponsor. That's not technically true. They've had like chair sponsors before. They've had TI chairs, and they've actually tweeted about some gaming chair. Actually, the official Dota 2 Twitter. Now,
I think TI has also been sponsored by NVIDIA, right? Not officially, but like the setups that they have. They also had screens on display during TI something, right? There are monitors on the panels.
Really?
Stuff. There's been stuff. I'm pretty sure, right?
Okay, so anyway. Okay, I retract that then slightly. But this is the first betting sponsor for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt about that.
And it's
also the first one that's announced.
It's announced, right? And it's through PGL, so it kind of isn't technically Valve at all. It feels like they're just handing stuff off at this point. That's what it feels like. And PGL is like, okay, if you're going to do that, are we allowed to get sponsors? And apparently it's a yes. And a betting sponsor, that's what people are really upset about. So I want to ask you what you think about it. I kind of understand both sides. I will admit one thing. I do not gamble at all. Okay? I'm not a gambling person. I think I've said this story before. In terms of gambling, like in Vegas, I did it once when I was 21 for my birthday. I put $100 down on blackjack and lost it all in 2 hands, and I have not gambled since. It doesn't interest me in any way. I don't care if people do it, and you're going to maybe be surprised by this. I don't really care that GGBet is sponsoring this. I will admit it is weird that it's the group stage as well. That's really weird because we're just not used to it, right? And I don't know what the history with GGBet is, if there's actually shady stuff. If there is, then yeah, then I guess I'd have a problem with it. But I look at all betting sponsors as relatively the same. They're all kind of shady anyway. But in the end, we've talked about this before, esports, you're not really making... This is where it's weird, though. Like we've talked about it before with like third-party tournaments having betting sponsors, streamers having betting sponsors. You don't really make that much money in esports unless you have betting sponsors, especially in Dota. Hard game to sponsor. TI, it does feel different though, because it is funded by the community. That is where I understand that there's like a line being crossed potentially.
Yeah, so people, to my understanding, the gravity of negativity about betting sponsorships is way higher for TI than anything else.
Yeah.
And it's lowest for teams. There is basically, to my knowledge, more or less every high-tier team in Dota has a betting sponsor on their jersey, which is no different from, a lot of football clubs, for example, at least in Europe. I don't know in the US if it's legal to have betting sponsors on your NFL teams or whatever. Maybe it is. But in Europe, that's very normal. And I would say for the most part, in the difference for me, largely in terms of that versus football, is that the betting sponsors that are in the Premier League or in just football in general are, on average, way more vetted than a lot of the, for example, let's say some of these betting sites that do like crypto bets or whatever, which are like really like, the reason you say everything seems a little bit shady is that there's that reputation, right? Because people kind of don't really know what's going on, which is also what some of the sites can rely on. It's just this uncertainty.
True.
I don't inherently have a problem with betting sponsorships for video games or for sports, but I have a problem with not vetting it properly. So that's why, for example, if a betting sponsor contacts me and they're like, "Hey, we want to sponsor your stream?" Usually I don't respond if it's a name where I feel like I can't, hand on heart, feel like I'm not fucking over my audience by promoting this product, right?
Yeah.
I've had one betting sponsorship ever on my stream. It's many, many, many years ago, and it was the official Danish monopoly on betting. We have a monopoly in Denmark on what's it called?
I thought you were talking about the Monopoly game. I was like, what the fuck?
No.
So
there's this big company in Denmark called Danske Spil, which means Danish games, and they have all sorts of like games or whatever. And I had them as a sponsor on my stream because I felt like I can promote this and not feel terrible about myself. Like, people should know when they're playing any sort of gambling game or any sort of scratchers or whatnot that there's a risk and a reward. It's there. Like, educate yourself and do it knowingly. But I knew for a fact that if people went to that link and played their games because of me, I wouldn't lead them into a scam, right? That's my point. That's where I think it's really, really different.
Yeah.
Now, that's the first thing, is that you want things to not be a scam. The second thing is TI is a different beast. And I think the community, and this is also something that Valve has kind of fostered over the years, is that the community feels like TI is our tournament, right? It's about the players, it's about the fans, and it's about not having outside interference into our like ecosystem, because people pay so much money into the battle pass so that the whole tournament can be ran by the community and the community alone. And this change towards having gambling sponsors is, I mean, I'm trying to think of how that is, from a technical perspective, how it's different from having the other sponsors that we've had in the past, right? What was the one you mentioned that we had last time? You mentioned one.
For what?
For TI.
Oh,
the chair sponsor, right? Secret Labs, for example. And I believe that was officially tweeted out by the Twitter, actually. There was like tweets with the chair of TI or something. Maybe it was not from TI themselves. Maybe it was only from Secret Labs, but there definitely was. It was announced in an official capacity that there was a partnership.
Yeah.
So this is not the first time TI ever has a sponsor of any kind. So that's why it's important, because some people are presenting this as the first time ever that TI has sponsorship, which is just not true. But it's the first time it has a betting sponsorship. And then it's about, okay, so now we're about discussing, okay, it's not about whether TI is sponsored for the first time ever. It's about, do we want betting sponsors in TI? And that's a totally different ballpark. And I totally understand why some people don't want that, or a lot of people don't want it. And I personally am a little bit unsure, again, because I don't know enough about the betting sponsor in particular for this one. Maybe they're totally legit and everything is fine. Maybe not. It's a bit of a gray area, and I haven't done the research, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys, yeah, they're 100% clean, or yeah, they're shady. I'm not going to say what it is. I don't know. People have... I feel like you take any betting site ever, and you look at reviews, and there will always be people saying this site is shit, or they fucked me over, or whatever. And I think a lot of the time it's user error, okay? I don't think every single statement... It's the same if you go to poker sites or whatever. People will be like, this site is rigged, because they bet and they lost, and losing sucks, and sometimes it feels better to blame something else than yourself, when a lot of the time you were probably the one at fault.
Yeah.
Is this terrible for the game? I don't think so. Is it awesome for the game? No. But the bigger question here is, why is this going in this direction? I think that's what I'm more curious about, the underlying reason, because Valve have been very anti-betting in the past. So the fact that this door is open might be a clue of some sort of how they want to approach TI in the future or Dota in general. Are they getting more and more hands off and they're just letting other people run it? Or
I think it's very obvious by the change of the battle pass that something big has changed with their philosophy with TI in general, but we don't know what that is exactly, right? This feels very Valve in general are pretty damn hands off. With TI, they're more hands on than other stuff they do, but they're still somewhat hands off. If that may it's like if this is Riot, they're controlling every detail. That's not the way Valve would work with TI. They're controlling a lot of it, and everything needs to be overseen, but it's still in their own way. This feels like it's just all right. Do what you want. You need to make money, whatever the case may be. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it either. Like I keep going back and forth. I guess I'm just neutral at the moment. I really don't know what to think.
I'm kind of in the same boat, honestly.
And I think one thing that people are upset about is the fact that there's a betting sponsor now at TI, and the production they feel has not been particularly good thus far. The TI quals, which there's been like stream outages and a bunch of other issues. I think that's fair. So I think all of that combined has created this negative perception with what is currently going on with TI. And then there's, other rumors that we won't talk about right now.
I definitely agree. Like if you have this betting sponsorship, and I believe this betting sponsorship is worth a lot of money because first of all, it's on TI. And secondly, if you know anything about what sponsors pay for, the amount of exposure that the betting site gets on the broadcast is expensive. It is not. They're not getting like a little corner of the screen or something. In the pregame, there's like big stuff. There's live updates on bets during games and stuff. It's very, very expensive to get this kind of stuff out.
So this is what is the interesting thing, in my opinion. So again, no inside information on this at all. I'm just based on me running tournaments in the past. Back when PGL was doing all the other TIs, I would assume that Valve pays them to do it. Yes?
Probably.
I actually have a feeling that they are not paying them. PGL.
You mean this year or ever?
This year.
Okay.
Like if I was PGL, this would be the smart move. I would say, you want to save money on production? Don't pay us anything, but allow us to have sponsors. There's no way that Valve is getting money from GGBet. Would that make sense to you? Based on their stances in the past? There's no fucking way, right? I would be shocked.
Yeah, I do feel like the
GGBet money, GGBet money is going to PGL, which means why would Valve be paying them then? You know what I mean? They're recouping that money in that way. That is my opinion of what is happening right now, which is really weird, really weird. And it kind of sets a weird precedent going forward, because if Valve's not willing to pay for TI production or whatever the case may be, is that the beginning of the end for the TIs that we've known in the past? I don't know. Again, this is complete speculation, but that is my opinion on what's probably happening. But
I have a hypothetical for you here. If the production of the qualifier coverage had been amazing, like the best we've ever had, how accepting do you think the community at large would have been of the betting sponsorship if they felt like there was a direct return on investment there? There's like, okay, we're paying. We have to have ads on screen, but the production is incredible. Like everything is running super smoothly. We have very high tier like LAN coverage, not remote, but everything is like really set up nicely in studios and stuff. Do you feel like people will be like, okay, this is worth it? Or do you think they would still be like, no, for TI, it's a hard veto. We don't want any sponsors on TI.
I think it's something that obviously we don't have a choice of. So eventually people are going to be fine with it, or they're going to be they're going to be apathetic. Like if they do it this year, and even if it's a disaster, they're just going to do it again next year. People are going to have an uproar. That's the problem, is I don't think there's any control over this from the community standpoint. Like what can we do exactly? We're still going to be buying the battle pass every year. Like they cut the battle pass in half, and half of it won't be going to TI anymore. There's an uproar. Nothing really changed. And why should they change? Like just think of it from Valve's perspective. They're still making probably the same money, if not more now than before. They don't have to worry about TI. They can just pass it off to somebody else. Like, isn't that a win-win?
Depends on your perspective, but
Yeah, but from a billion-dollar corporation perspective, don't you think that's a win-win?
if your only goal is to drive profit and people don't enjoy working on it, then yes. If people, which has been the case in the past with TI, right? I think some Valve employees have really enjoyed working on TI and really like what the tournament was or is, and maybe they, wanted a change, or maybe they're not as much into it anymore. That's really human, right? Like let's say you've worked the last 6 or 7 TIs in terms of organizing it from a Valve perspective. Maybe you've been reassigned to another project. Maybe you just want to do something else and it doesn't interest you as much anymore because, that's fair and you know how their company structure works. So perhaps that's what's happened here. Like maybe this year, the people that used to be the driving force behind organizing TI from Valve's perspective were like, I don't really, want to do this anymore. And you could be like, well, it's your job, but that's not how it works at Valve, right? This was their involvement with this was largely a passion project, which is what they've set themselves on record. Like a big part of what's coming from Valve's side is because the employees wanted to do it. And if they don't want to do that so much anymore, you outsource it. And perfectly reasonable, but it obviously will change the product and it will change the way things are run. And then you either adapt to that or you just don't like it anymore. That's not much to say, is there?
Yeah, that's true.
So,
there is one aspect of this that we didn't talk about, which I just want to talk about briefly because I've seen a couple comments in the chat. The negative side of having betting sponsors is the harassment that pro players take. I owned a team for a year and a half. I know exactly how this goes. There's death threats. There's tons of toxicity towards players and orgs because of betting. You lose money, you get very angry, and you send death threats.
And you feel like it's someone else's fault.
This is very common and a very common issue, not just this game, but every game that has betting sponsors. The only problem is with a game like Dota, like Counter-Strike is a game that you can sponsor relatively easily. They have betting sponsors too, but I'm just saying, by comparison, it's not apples and apples. It is like they're an apple and what is a not very attractive fruit?
Dragon fruit.
Okay, we're a dragon fruit. We're niche. It's a niche thing.
And we smell like shit.
We smell like shit sometimes. It's very hard to get sponsors in Dota. So, in my opinion, it is a necessary evil to have shady sponsors, whether it's betting or something else. It's a necessary evil because the scene would not, outside of TI in the past, it would not be able to function without it. But the negative side is that they're shady companies, obviously, and death threats, harassment towards pro players, organizations, and just community at large. Like, that is certainly something that should be noted because that's a thing.
Now, the question here that I have, okay, so this is like, let's say there were no betting sponsorships at all in Dota, no sponsorships whatsoever, but there was still betting going on, right? Because the betting companies will want to have betting run on video games. If they have that department in their company, they will have it on Dota. Let's say they weren't allowed to sponsor anything, but the betting was still there.
Yeah.
The harassment would still be there, right? Because there will be angry people that went and bet, but the exposure to it would be smaller. So like the absolute magnitude of it would be less, right? So it's not like, okay, it's not binary, is my point here. It's not like, okay, without betting sponsors, everything is amazing. And with betting sponsors, everything is hell. Like it's not like that. And unfortunately, as is the case for everybody who's a public figure that people have stakes in, which is essentially what you're doing when you're betting on a team, right? You're quote unquote investing in their success. People will be receiving negative comments, whether it's in sports, whether it's in esports, whether it's in whatever. People will get angry because they feel like they are entitled to winning because they bet on you and they knew you were going to win. You never know if they're going to win, and you're never certain, and you need to be willing to lose. Otherwise, betting is not for you.
Yeah.
And that's a natural part of any betting game, is that you will lose a lot of the time. And if you're not good at it, you will lose more than you win. The vast majority of people that bet on anything are losers. That's how it works. That's why it's profitable to run a company that runs on betting. So whether that's a casino or if it's a like a staking company or whether it's poker, most people don't outperform it. Now, the thing that's really interesting for me about Dota as a betting game compared to other games is how big a part the draft means, right? And I think there's a lot of people will be very prone to a false feeling of confidence, right? Like you see the draft and you're like, oh, this team's draft is so much better, but you don't really understand the intricacies of it. So you're going to take the bet because you feel like, oh man, they win this 90% of the time, but they don't. But you think they do. So the odds look appealing to you as the audience. But at the end of the day, if the people placing the betting odds are good at it, you're not going to beat the game. If you're very smart about Dota, like if you're super knowledgeable ex-pro or whatever, maybe you could profit off betting on Dota because you have a big enough understanding that you're better at judging the odds of the game than the person putting up the bets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the average viewer will not.
That is true.
So most people will lose, and
most
you're
of the
betting
people,
for the thrill and you hope you win, right?
Most of the people that would be able to make that type of a call are people that are involved in organizations and should not be betting, right?
Exactly. So for example, I think there's a decent chance perhaps that I could be profitable betting on Dota games if I was like selective and I chose the right games where I felt very confident.
Your predictions have been fucking awful. Let's be real.
Yeah, so maybe I also would lose, right?
Your predictions have been horrible.
But, okay, I will say this much. I feel like I would be a better judge of the outcome of a game before it starts than the average person that watches Dota.
Yes.
I'm pretty confident about that. So
that's true.
But I, out of principle, stay away from everything related to esports betting, even if it's like tempting and it's interesting, because there's an integrity thing at play here, where especially if you're involved in the tournament itself, but even if you aren't, you have like access to maybe inside information about teams or scrim results or stuff like that you're not supposed to have. So you would have an unfair advantage and it would be unethical, right?
Yep.
To bet like that. So I have completely stayed away from betting on everything esports related all time. If I ever stop working in the space, maybe it's something I would do. I don't know. Then the thing is, then I would probably be getting so much worse at understanding the game that I might not be good enough at it anyway, right? But it's a different thing. I know. I mean, it's very public. Certain people in the community do bet, even though they work on events. Vilat has, as an example, Vilat bets on games, and that has not been a major controversy, at least not for us. I don't know if it's like a really big deal.
My goodness.
I don't know if it's a major thing in the Eastern Europe community or not, but yeah, specifically, this is the one thing. Specifically at TI, talent and players in the the initial meeting of the tournament are told don't bet on games, no matter what, even if
common sense. But yeah.
Because, I mean, you would say common sense, but a lot of the time things that are common sense need to be said. And the reason is, even if you're not doing it maliciously, even if there's nothing wrong with it, there's going to be speculation. And there's going to be, like, if you hit a big win and you take a big risk, then how does that look, right? So they just want to eliminate that factor entirely. So players and coaches and talent at TI in particular are told not to bet on games.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah. That was a long segue. Or
that wasn't really a segue. That was the finishing
not a segue.
Touches.
What's it called?
Monologue.
Why can't I remember the word?
Monologue.
No, yeah, it was also a monologue.
All right. Well, we're not going to wait for you to find the words. All right. Last topic. I just want to talk about this real quick because I found it completely fascinating. So there is a custom game called OMG 4+2, Cinderin.
In China.
It's in the game, but this is specifically about
just a global
China.
one. Okay, right.
So I think, from my understanding, it's just like regular Dota, except like you pick a hero, it comes with his regular 4 skills, and then you get to add 2 skills and some. I don't know how they do it exactly. Mm-hmm. So not that what's the word? Unique, I guess. But apparently it's gotten very, very popular, which to me is just shocking because most people don't want to play a full game of Dota as a custom game. They came out with a Necrophos persona, which I'm going to show on the screen, actually. So you need to describe this for people that are listening.
Okay,
there we go. What do you see there, Cinderin?
It is in anime style a female nurse, and her scythe is an IV drop on a cane.
That's correct. So the reason I'm showing, you might be wondering, why the hell am I showing you this? Do you want me to keep this on the screen, or yeah, we'll keep it on the screen. So there was a comment, and I have not confirmed this at all. This sounds real though. I'm going to read this comment from somebody that didn't give enough context. It's the guy that made the thread that nobody apparently read this. So for the last few months, many top Chinese streamers have been streaming only OMG 4+2, contributing to a somewhat decline in players queuing normal Dota games. Then, and this is where it gets interesting, then Perfect World started a pretty massive marketing campaign for the game mode, advertising their own matchmaking client, something like Faceit, for OMG 4+2, and a bunch of promotional goodies encouraging players to sign up and play the game mode. I don't know about others, but personally I feel it's weird that for the official Valve partner to dedicate marketing efforts towards an unofficial game mod, especially when the advertisements are played in between DPC games where traditional Dota is played. This, coupled with OMG 4+2 streamers, led to a surge in popularity of the game mode and arguably a decline in players playing traditional Dota. The result is that, especially at the Immortal level, players have a hard time searching for Dota games. Chinese streamers preferred normal Dota started to play in the SEA servers for faster queue times, and this also caused a trickle-down effect of lower MMR players trying out the SEA server. Of course, I don't have official data or evidence to back my claims, but I think the popularity of OMG 4+2 led to fewer players in the official Chinese servers, which in turn led streamers and players to abandoning the server entirely and embracing the SEA servers instead. I don't think the rest really matters that much, but I find this so fascinating. Like, Perfect World is just like their own entity. Like, Valve kind of just lets them do what they want because it's probably just part of the negotiation. Can you imagine this being something that Valve would do? Can you imagine marketing for a custom game and then getting so popular that it actually lowers the amount of players that you actually have playing regular Dota? That's crazy.
But this is why Valve are 5-hit, right? That's why they don't advertise their custom games, because they know they need the players in regular Dota. So they don't do that. That's why they advertise regular Dota a lot, so that people play that.
Great call, Synderen. Thank you. As always, great analysis. But yeah, I found this really interesting. It sounded so fake, but I'm assuming this is real. Perfect World or...
Okay, I'll just say this. If this was fake, the comment is fake, and this model is fake, someone went really, really hard to troll. And then I just respect the fuck out of it if this isn't real.
Right.
So there's like no way, right? But that would be really funny.
But can you imagine like a custom game coming out that just cuts, let's just say in theory, cuts the player base in half for regular Dota?
What happened with auto chess?
That increased the player base. Probably.
It increased the player base, but I think quite a few of the people playing auto chess did not play Dota at the time, right? Then they went and played auto chess instead.
The difference is, though, they're not comparable games. They're completely different genres. This is literally Dota.
That's fair.
With 2 extra skills.
Yeah.
So the people, like a very large percentage of the people playing auto chess when it was at its peak were people that didn't even have Dota to begin with. They had to download it just to play that.
Shannon, here's what you need to do. If Ability Arena has a positive reception on launch, you write to Perfect World.
That's
and you get them to promote Ability Arena, and you put in the cutest fucking waifu Zeus ever, and people will love it, okay? That's what you're going to do.
So instead of the Gaben model that we have, it's an anime character.
Yes.
Okay. That sounds easy. Easy enough to do.
Yeah.
All right. That is the end of the episode. Long. I feel like we didn't have that many topics, but ended up an hour and 13 because Sinner would not shut up as usual.
You're welcome.
That. Okay. Thanks for watching, everybody. Until next time, Sunsfan and Sinner signing out. Have a good one. Peace.
Bye.
We say things
Subscribe.
but thanks for listening.